The moment I opened my eyes, my best friend Jessica was clinging to my arm affectionately. "Chloe, what are you waiting for? Didn't we say we were going to the zoo today?" But it felt like a snake hissing in my ear, announcing my death. My whole body went rigid. Just then my boyfriend Ryan came out and backed her up. "Chloe, no phones and no sleeping in today. And to make sure you keep your word, I'll hold on to your phone and ID for you." Any protest I had died on my lips. Seeing how eager they both were, I just nodded. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw Ryan's gaze fixed on the hint of cleavage showing from Jessica's top. I can't believe I'd never noticed that before. In my last life, after my wealthy parents found me while I was working in a restaurant, they planned to send me abroad to study. My best friend suggested we take a trip over Memorial Day weekend to celebrate. I was thrilled and even planned to tell her on the trip that my parents had agreed to let her come with me. I never imagined that during a simple visit to the zoo, after drinking a bottle of water, my body would start burning up. In front of tens of thousands of visitors, I tore off my own clothes. Having lost my mind, I grabbed a man next to me and started groping him. After his girlfriend knocked me to the ground, someone pushed me, and I fell into the open-air monkey enclosure. The surrounding tourists held up their cameras and recorded everything. For a full hour, no one came to help me. Finally, a zookeeper showed up late and got me out. The video went viral, and people all over the internet called me a pervert with a sick fetish. After being discharged from the hospital, I was taken to the police station, fined, and detained for a week, which made me miss the start of the school year. The trauma was too much, and I developed severe depression, attempting suicide countless times. All my friends abandoned me, only my parents, my best friend, and my boyfriend stuck by my side. I fought to get better, thinking I could start a new life, but then that nightmarish video was played again at my wedding. That's when my best friend revealed her true colors. "I want you to be wide awake when you watch me take everything from you." It turned out she was the one who drugged the water, and she was the one who played the video at my wedding, also she could take my place as my parents' adopted daughter. One was a friend I'd known for over 20 years. Since our days in the orphanage, the other was the man I'd dated for 6 years. After my family took me in, I bought them cars and apartments, and I arranged jobs for them. I spent every cent of the allowance my parents gave me on them, but they were never satisfied. If that's how it's going to be, then I'll make them spit out everything they took. This time, I'm going to repay every last bit of humiliation I suffered in my past life to my dear best friend and boyfriend. Once we got to the zoo, my best friend and boyfriend did everything they could to make me walk. We had almost seen the whole zoo, and they were both panting while I was still full of energy. "Let's go. Why are you stopping?" Back when I was working to pay for tuition, I survived on 4 hours of sleep a day while juggling 3 jobs. A little walking wasn't going to wear me out. The two of them, their legs trembling, couldn't go on and suggested we find a place to rest. "Chloe, I'm thirsty. Go buy us drinks. I want a milk tea. And Jessica wants a mango smoothie." My boyfriend ordered me around as if it were the most natural thing in the world. In my last life, I served them just like this, without complaint. I'd tighten my own belt to buy them gifts they liked, while all I ever got in return were cheap, dollar store keychains. I didn't object and went to buy them their drinks. Only then did they notice I hadn't bought anything for myself. "Chloe, why aren't you drinking anything?" I pulled out the thermos I always carried. "I'll have this." "What, you're so rich now and you're still this cheap?" My best friend quickly covered my boyfriend's mouth. "Ryan, she didn't mean it like that. She's just worried you're thirsty." Suddenly, her eyes darted, and she clutched her stomach, crying out in pain. I seized the opportunity and handed my thermos to my boyfriend while I took Jessica to the restroom. When we came back out, he couldn't hide the smile on his face. "Have some water, Chloe." I nodded, opened it, and took a sip. Then, as if remembering something, I ran to the concession stand owner, got a disposable cup, filled it with hot water, and handed it to my best friend. "Doing the math, your period should be coming soon. You should drink some hot water." I carefully watched her expression. She showed not a flicker of guilt, just took the water, drank it, and didn't even say thank you. The last shred of pity I had for her vanished. As soon as she finished, The two of them led me to the crowded, popular panda exhibit. My boyfriend glanced around at a few spots, and I pretended to casually look over, noticing 4 cameras pointed directly at us. I started taking off my jacket. When I didn't do anything else, my boyfriend urged me on. "Chloe, are you feeling hot? If you're hot, just take it all off." I looked at him, feigning surprise. I already took my jacket off. Just then, a gasp went through the crowd. The drug had taken effect, and my best friend, Jessica, was starting to lose control. She grabbed a 300-pound man next to her and wouldn't let go. How could this be? "It wasn't you, it wasn't me." "What? What's wrong with Jessica?" My boyfriend had no choice but to try and pull Jessica off the large man. But Jessica was surprisingly strong and managed to rip the man's pants off. The man, who had initially thought he was getting lucky, was now furious and slapped her so hard she went flying. I hid to the side, occasionally piping up, "Jessica, what's wrong? Ryan, you have to help her." Seeing Jessica's flushed face, Ryan got scared too. After all, that was a high-strength aphrodisiac for livestock, and I'd had the guy make it 10 times stronger. In the chaos, a passerby bumped into Jessica, knocking her into the monkey enclosure next to the panda exhibit. The monkey enclosure, usually ignored, instantly became the most popular attraction in the zoo. Everyone raised their phones and started recording. It was too graphic for me, I couldn't watch. The entire trap they had set for me had now backfired completely on Jessica. An hour later, just like in my past life, the zookeepers finally arrived to retrieve the battered and bruised Jessica. My boyfriend, Ryan, was furious and yelled at the keeper. "What took you so long? I called you." In my past life, when it happened to me, Ryan's reaction had been completely different. He had just cried crocodile tears, his eyes filled with disgust. "It wasn't you." I cut the zookeeper off, pretending I knew nothing, and urged my boyfriend to take Jessica to the hospital. It wasn't that I'd suddenly grown a conscience, it was just that if Jessica died so mysteriously, the show couldn't go on. At the hospital, after a quick diagnosis, the doctor told us to go pay the bill. "Is this a rip-off hospital? Why does a minor surgery cost so much?" The doctor patiently explained that Jessica had a fractured shin and severe tearing in her lower body, making the surgery very complex. We also detected a massive amount of aphrodisiacs in the patient's system. The dosage was meant for an animal. Ryan went silent, resignedly pulling out his phone to pay, only to see insufficient funds. "What's going on? Chloe, why isn't your supplementary card working?" So disgusting. I forgot I had linked these 2 leeches to my account as authorized users. "I don't know. Let me see your phone." He reluctantly handed it over. I pulled out my own phone and showed him my balance. What bad luck. I've already spent most of my allowance for the month. "How could that be? Don't your parents give you $10,000 a month?" I put on a troubled look. "My parents found out I was spending money on you guys, so they cut my allowance down to $2,000. I paid for the plane tickets and the hotel, so now I only have $25 left." They didn't know I had already transferred all the money to another card using my smartwatch. "Call your parents and ask for more money now." I rolled my eyes internally. The nerve of this guy. I faked a phone call where I pretended to get yelled at, then said casually, "My parents chewed me out. It would be great if there was a cheaper hospital." "You're so useless," he cursed, before taking my best friend to the same shady clinic where they had taken me in my past life. In my last life, because they delayed my treatment and claimed they couldn't afford the medical bills, they sent me to that back alley clinic. I developed a severe post-op infection and had to live with a catheter bag for the rest of my life. My best friend and boyfriend just poured salt on the wound, saying, "If you hadn't been so stingy with us, we would have been able to afford your medical bills." "Chloe," Ryan might sound harsh, but he's telling the truth. "We had to scrape together for a long time to get this much for your medical fees. The bill is taller than I am, it's already well over $100,000. They sent me to a quack clinic and still tried to scam me out of more money. What a great best friend and boyfriend." When we got to the clinic, I looked at the operating room, which looked more like a petri dish. "Jessica, you're on your own now. After the surgery, Jessica woke up and realized she was in the same shady clinic they had prepared for me. Her eyes were bloodshot. She looked like she wanted to eat me alive. But then she closed her eyes, put on a different face, and brushed off my concern, sending me out to get some water. I secretly put in my earbuds and connected to the clinic's security cameras. It was a shady clinic. After all, they'd do anything for money. So I had spent a few $100s to get access to the footage. I saw Jessica screaming at Ryan. "Did you go soft on her? I told you. All she had to do was drink it, and then everything of hers would have been ours." I didn't. As soon as she left, I put the drug in. How was I supposed to know you'd be the one who got sick, not her? Watching those two turn on each other on the monitor was hilarious. We've known each other for so many years. Have I ever treated you badly? You liked Chloe, so I set you two up and got you together. So they had been hooking up long before I was in the picture. Disgusting. Don't think I don't know why you set us up. It was because you saw that other guy liked Chloe, so you wanted to get her off the market. And before that, the reason Chloe had no friends, wasn't that because you were spreading rumors about her everywhere? So that's why. I never thought I was a difficult person to get along with, but every time I made a new friend, they would either block me after a couple of days or just start ignoring me. That's why Jessica was my only friend for so many years. It was all her doing. But I didn't expect Jessica to be so ruthless. She quickly managed to sweet-talk that idiot Ryan again. He leaned in and whispered something I couldn't hear on the monitor, but it didn't matter. I still had a big gift to deliver to her tomorrow. I walked in with the water, but Jessica was testing me. "Chloe, there was something wrong with that water. I've been thinking about it, and you were the only one who could have poured it for me. Did you?" I agreed with her. "I got that water from the hotel. I should call the police right now." "Didn't you get that water at the park?" "That water was too hot, so I poured in some of the warm water from my thermos." The truth was, I never drank that water at all. I just pretended to take a sip, then used the excuse of getting Jessica hot water to go rinse my mouth out. Jessica's expression immediately turned sour, and she stopped me. "Forget it. It was probably something else I ate. But why are you fine after drinking the water?" "You know I can't stand the smell of smoke. When I was getting the water, I smelled smoke and felt sick, so I threw up. I was too embarrassed to tell you." In the end, neither of them wanted to make a scene, so they choked down their bitterness. Jessica paid out of her own pocket to transfer to a proper hospital for post-op care. The next morning, I was about to head to the hospital to show Jessica the viral video of herself, when I found the hotel entrance swarmed with people. I finally managed to push my way out, only to find everyone staring at me strangely. Some men were even giving me lewd looks and trying to block my way. When I got to the hospital, Jessica looked at me with a face full of emotion. "Chloe, I can't believe you'd be willing to take the fall for me like this. Having you as a best friend in this life is all I could ever ask for." My boyfriend also had a gloating look on his face. "Chloe, don't worry, I know it's all fake. For the sake of your reputation, I can marry you early, but you can't skimp on the dowry. Also, you should forget about studying abroad. After we're married, you can just be a housewife. I can't bear to see you suffer." A patient in the next bed slapped me across the face. "Shameless hussy. You have no decency." I suddenly realized what was going on and quickly opened my phone. The video was trending, just like in my past life, but the face in the video wasn't Jessica's, it was mine. Just then, the door to the room was pushed open. "I heard Chloe's in here. We have to get an exclusive interview." I quickly shut the door and was about to climb out the window when my boyfriend blocked me. "Chloe, I can't believe you'd take the blame for your best friend, and even call reporters to clear her name. I'm truly moved by your character." I shoved him aside. If I didn't run now, it would be too late. Once those sleazy reporters got a picture of me, there'd be no way to explain the truth. Seeing me try to escape, Jessica raised her voice to help them out. "Chloe, don't go out the window. This is the 3rd floor, it's dangerous." It was the 1st floor. Jessica was blatantly lying. I didn't have time to argue with her because some of the reporters' dudes I munko now heard her, and were circling around to the window to block me. As the reporters got closer, I still couldn't break free from my boyfriend's grip. Jessica couldn't hide the smile spreading across her face. If these fake sex rumors about me stuck, my acceptance letter to the university abroad would be rescinded. Plus, my parents hadn't made a formal announcement about adopting me yet. If Jessica succeeded this time, my official welcome party would have to be cancelled. Some reporters were already climbing in through the window. I stopped struggling. My boyfriend thought I had given up. It's okay, Chloe. I'll always be by your side. Someone had secretly unlocked the door to the room, and the reporters outside swarmed in with their long lens cameras, flashes going off non-stop. A sea of microphones was shoved in my face, everyone desperate to dig up some bizarre story. Miss Summers, do you have a particular fetish? Miss Summers, did you choose to do this at a zoo because you're under too much stress? Miss Summers, are you physically okay? Do you have any psychological conditions? The questions were disgusting and sharp, but I just smiled and didn't answer them. Please don't disturb my best friend, Jessica. She just had surgery. As for any other questions, I have no comment. No matter what they said, I didn't say another word. Seeing this, the other reporters started interviewing Jessica and Ryan. Just as the two of them started vaguely implying that I had low morals and a love for seeking novelty and thrills, and that this trip was all my elaborate plan, I remained silent. I walked over to my best friend, pretending to be concerned about her, and accidentally bumped her wound. Jessica, are you okay? I didn't mean to. The doctor said your wound shouldn't be covered up, it needs to breathe. I whipped off the blanket, and a foul stench filled the room, making everyone cover their noses. Oh my God, what is that? Jessica, out of vanity, had ignored the doctor's advice and kept the wound covered, making the smell even worse. It was only then that the reporters started to wonder. Why did I look perfectly fine while Jessica was the one lying in a hospital bed? Sensing things were going south, Jessica tried to end the interview, but I pressed the call button for the nurse. Why are there so many people in this room? The patient needs fresh air. The reporters also saw the medical chart in the doctor's hand, which listed severe lower body tearing among other symptoms, and they finally understood who the real star of the zoo incident was. Then, I accidentally revealed the tattoo on Jessica's abdomen, which was a perfect match for the one in the viral video. The reporters erupted. So the person in the video was Ms. Jones. The face was blurred, and the caption said a woman with the last name Summers, so everyone thought it was Chloe, but it was actually her friend Jessica. Finally, as the doctor was changing Jessica's dressing, I adopted a please don't disturb my best friend attitude. The show was over. As the reporters swarmed Jessica, I quietly slipped away. Those two scumbags were truly vicious. Just then I got a concerned call from my parents. After I explained everything, they hired lawyers to sue the people who had spread the rumors and posted the videos, and they had all the content taken down. The next day, the interview with Jessica went viral again. This time, even though her face was blurred, her full name and hospital address were leaked. The cyberbullying that had driven me to depression in my last life was now fully directed at Jessica and Ryan. Someone even commented under the video, I feel like Jessica and her boyfriend's relationship is weird. Could it be that the trashy couple tried to set up the real girlfriend, got caught, and had the tables turned on them? I was there too. While the girlfriend was buying them stuff, those two were sneaking kisses. The comment above is chilling. I think they've figured it out. I paid no attention to the drama. I sent them both a message saying I was leaving, and then I left. After Memorial Day was my official welcome party, where my parents would formally introduce me to everyone and give me shares in the company. I thought that after the online harassment, Jessica and Ryan would lie low for a while, but somehow they found out where the party was and showed up. Seeing me in a designer gown, looking every bit the heiress, Ryan was practically drooling. Chloe, you're so beautiful. Jessica was smiling today, but she couldn't hide the jealousy in her eyes. Yes, Chloe, you're the most beautiful princess tonight. But why didn't you tell us? Did you think people like us weren't worthy of coming to your party? I linked my arm through hers affectionately. Of course not, Jessica. You know we've been best friends for over 20 years. But all that recent business with you has upset my parents. They don't want me hanging out with people of questionable character. My tone shifted. But I don't believe you're that kind of person. I was planning to invite you both over separately, but here you are. I signaled a waiter to keep a special eye on them, worried they might try to pull something. To my surprise, they just sat quietly at their table and ate. It wasn't until my parents announced my identity and presented me with the company stock certificates that Ryan made his move. Dressed in a cheap suit, he pulled a ring that looked like it came from a dollar store out of his pocket, got down on one knee, and proposed. Chloe, we've been together for 6 years. Now that you're about to study abroad, to put your mind at ease, I've decided to make it official. Marry me, Chloe, and be my housewife. His intentions were so obvious they were practically smacking me in the face. What did he mean? Put my mind at ease by having me cook and clean for him. I don't know what's in that man's head, but he can dream on. But I didn't have any concrete evidence to send them to jail, and rather than constantly watch my back, I decided to play along and let them ruin themselves. My parents' faces were grim, and they looked ready to kick this cheap man out. Jessica started her part of the act, somehow connecting her phone to the big screen at the party and starting a slideshow of photos of me and Ryan. Some of the pictures looked like they were taken secretly. Some of the wealthy young women who were just starting to warm up to me now took a step back. Even the men who had shown interest a moment ago quietly distanced themselves. Jessica started chanting, "Say yes. Say yes. Say yes," trying to ruin my reputation. In the end, my parents had security throw them out, and the guards gave my boyfriend a good beating. After the party, the two of them were still waiting for me at the door. When they saw me, a bruised and swollen Ryan started accusing me. "You've gone from rags to riches, haven't you? Too good for your boyfriend now." Jessica also had a "how could you" look on her face. "Chloe, I never thought you were this kind of person. You and Ryan were so close." Her voice wasn't quiet, and some of the departing guests quickened their pace. "Don't even think about dumping me, Chloe Summers. Have you forgotten we've been together for 6 years? I have things on my phone you wouldn't want anyone to see. If you don't marry me, those videos and photos will be all over the country tomorrow like snowflakes." Ryan finally showed his true colors. Jessica was still trying to persuade me. "Chloe, Ryan just loves you too much. You know he can't bear the thought of losing you. Have you forgotten it was Ryan who saved you when no one else would? Back then, I was nearly stripped naked by a few thugs when Ryan descended from the sky like a hero to save me. It was only after Jessica's constant brainwashing that I agreed to date him. For all I know, Jessica hired those thugs in the first place. Their only move is to try and ruin my reputation. I'm getting tired of it. They don't understand that a woman's virtue isn't between her legs. When your heart is dirty, you see everything as dirty. I'll do it." Jessica was still trying to brainwash me when she was stunned by my agreement. But what Ryan just said really hurt my feelings. Am I that petty? The apartment you live in, didn't I buy it? The clothes you wear, didn't I buy them? I even bought you a car and got you jobs at my family's company. How could you see me like that? Do you really think my dowry would be less than all of that? My boyfriend had to grit his teeth and pay for things. When he ran out of money, my best friend would step in. After another huge shopping spree, I came home and checked the surveillance cameras in his apartment. I saw that the two of them were starting to lose it. If I pushed too hard, they might turn on me, so I dangled my next piece of bait. I sent him a text. "Let's get married." Watching the two of them celebrate on the monitor, I thought, my wedding will be your funeral. The night before the wedding, I went to check the cameras as usual, but found the living room empty. I switched to the bedroom and saw a disgusting scene. As if that wasn't enough, they even pulled out their phones to order some new toys. "You're getting married tomorrow. Then you'll have joint assets with Chloe. Remember what I taught you. How to get her money, how to get rid of those 2 old geezers, and then Chloe will be all ours." "I know, don't worry." Of course I'm not worried. We're in the same boat after all. I suddenly remembered that my boyfriend had once made me use his food delivery app to order a bunch of things for his colleagues to show off, and he even sent me screenshots of the order afterward. I immediately logged into his account, canceled that old order, and placed a new one to add a little spice to their lives. The next day at the wedding, sure enough, the groom and the maid of honor were both late. and Ryan had ditched the white suit we had picked out for a black one. He couldn't stop squeezing his legs together. Jessica, in her bridesmaid dress, was also standing in a twisted posture. It seemed they really enjoyed last night's wasabi and chili water-flavored products. The wedding proceeded as planned. The ceremony went on, and when the host started talking about our long romance and the big screen began to play a video, Ryan started trembling with excitement. Jessica was also staring at the screen without blinking. But when they heard a series of moans, their faces instantly changed. Ryan violently shook my hand. "Chloe, how could you do this? Playing a video of you with other men at our wedding. No wonder you never let me touch you. You were already satisfied by someone else. Chloe, how could you? Oh my God, there are other people in the video. I don't even know what to say. Even though you're my best friend, I have to stand on the side of justice." This wedding wasn't pre-recorded, it was being live-streamed. Ryan had said he wanted more people to witness our happiness. The guests in the audience started to gasp, and Jessica looked even more smug. Ryan also started playing the part of the devoted lover. "Forget it. What can I do? I love you. Chloe, just after this, you can't be seen in public anymore. I'll be the breadwinner, and you can just stay home and take care of me. When you meet a man like this, you should just marry him. Chloe, I'm so jealous of you." I ripped off my veil and slapped Ryan hard across the face. Seeing Jessica about to speak, I slapped her too. "You two did this yourselves, and you have the nerve to blame me. Now hundreds of thousands of viewers across the country have witnessed your love." The faces of the people in the video were revealed. It was the scumbag couple, Ryan and Jessica. They had even spelled out their entire plan to frame me. To make sure their love story was broadcast far and wide, I had even paid to promote the live stream. Jessica completely fell apart. Ryan collapsed to the floor. "It wasn't me, it was this bitch Jessica who seduced me." Jessica turned to Ryan. "You bastard. Who was it that snuck into my room in the middle of the night? And now you're blaming it all on me." The two of them started clawing and fighting with each other. I asked the question I had always wanted to ask. "Why did you do this to me? Jessica, we've known each other for over 20 years. Haven't I been good enough to you?" Jessica was still making excuses. "Chloe, it really wasn't me. Aren't I your best friend? You have to believe me." I knew there was no point in asking anymore. Seeing her like this, I just felt a sense of pity. I fired both Jessica and Ryan, and took back everything I had given them. I had a team of professional lawyers on it, and they were going to make sure Jessica and Ryan were sued for everything they had. In the end, they had to sell their house and car to pay off their debts. I thought that would be the end of it, with Jessica and Ryan becoming social outcasts. The zoo incident was dug up again, and the two of them became infamous online. Everywhere they went, people would spit on them and throw rotten eggs. No landlord would rent to them, and no company would hire two people who were universally despised online. In the end, Jessica and Ryan had no choice but to hide out in their hometown. I had a month before I was set to study abroad, so I started getting my things in order. My parents also gave up on the idea of finding me a live-in husband, and decided to do an official transfer of assets, leaving everything to me. I also moved out of my old rental, and went to live with my parents. Time flew by, and with only a week left before my departure, I was knocked unconscious and kidnapped while out for a walk. I woke up in an abandoned warehouse. Across from me sat a much more haggard-looking Ryan, and a woman whose entire face was wrapped in bandages. "You two just never learn, do you?" Hearing my voice, Ryan flew into a rage. "If it weren't for you, I would have been the son-in-law of the Summers family. Everything that belonged to them should have been mine. Why couldn't you just let me screw you over, you bitch?" The bandaged Jessica also spoke up. "You think you've won? In our last life, you died by my hand. In this life, you'll die by my hand too." So Jessica had regained her memories of her past life too. "I didn't expect you to know our plan ahead of time. But it doesn't matter. The final winner will still be me." Jessica signaled to Ryan, who brought out a large black dog. "You don't like monkeys, so how about a dog? Will you like that better? Who else would spoil you like this but me?" Jessica had truly gone insane. I tried to reason with them, but Ryan, as if in a fit of rage, flipped over a table. Do you have any idea what kind of life we've been living? Like two rats in a sewer, recognized everywhere we go. It's all your fault. Don't worry, it won't hurt. This drug is better than the last one. You just have to take it. Looking at the two deranged people and the large black dog, I started to break out in a cold sweat. Was I really going to die at the hands of these two parasites today? Jessica would definitely not let me walk out of here alive. If you're going to kill me, at least let me die knowing why. Why do you hate me so much? Jessica motioned for Ryan to stop. It doesn't matter if you stall for time. We bought a signal jammer this time. We have all the time in the world to play with you. And this time, I'm not just going to ruin you. I'm going to completely replace you. With that, Jessica slowly began to unwrap the bandages from her face, revealing a face identical to mine. See, I am you. In the end, only one Chloe Summers will walk out of here. The other will just be a corpse. Seeing my eyes widen, Jessica could no longer contain her joy and repeated the same words she had said to me at my hospital bed in my past life. Chloe, everything you have should have been mine. I tried to drive a wedge between them. Ryan, why are you following Jessica so blindly? If she succeeds in replacing me, she'll just kick you to the curb. Ryan let out a crazed laugh. You don't get it. We're in the same boat. This was the second time I had heard that phrase. I had a feeling there was more to it than I knew. While I was thinking, Ryan lost his patience. All right, enough talk. This time, the drug isn't for you to eat. It's for this big dog, to make sure you have the most realistic experience. To make things easier for the dog, Ryan started to pull down my pants. Just as he was about to unbutton them, I kicked him hard and made a run for the main door. I didn't expect you to have a blade hidden on you. Too bad you can't escape. The door was locked from the outside and wouldn't budge. I tried to run again, but Ryan forced something into my mouth, pinching my cheeks to make me swallow. Seeing as you still have the energy to run, we'll just have to take that away from you. Don't worry, you'll still be conscious after you take this. This time, all I could do was watch as the large black dog lunged at me. At that critical moment, the door suddenly burst open. Freeze, police. Move and we'll shoot. I was finally saved and loaded onto an ambulance. They thought I was defenseless, but I had actually implanted a tracking device in my body long ago. After the tragic events of my past life, I would never again be foolish enough to just wait for them to kill me. Thank God I stalled for time and waited for rescue. Jessica was still acting, screaming, I'm Chloe Summers. That woman is the fake. You should be saving me. After I had recovered a bit, the police came to take my statement and told me they had a lead on the information I had provided earlier. It turned out that Jessica and Ryan had been involved in a death before. Ryan had committed manslaughter, and Jessica, who had witnessed it, chose to help him cover it up. The two had been tied together ever since. Jessica had paid for her plastic surgery with loans, only to have it all come to nothing. When I was feeling better, I went to the police station to see Ryan. I know everything. My best friend Jessica clung to my arm, whispering in my ear, See, I know everything. I know you killed that woman. But what I want to tell you is that one night, Jessica got drunk and was mumbling about someone still being alive. What if that person didn't die? And Jessica only told you they were dead to control you. After saying that, I turned and left without looking back. Behind me, Ryan was shouting incessantly. I heard later that he had a psychotic break and attacked Jessica when she was released from the interrogation room, strangling her to death. I knew that would provoke him. Ryan was just a simple-minded brute, a pawn used by Jessica. The truth is, I had no idea if the person who was killed was actually dead or not, but that's what I told him. On the show, most of the poor kids gave the same old sob story, so I decided I would too. But I was fair-skinned and clean, like a delicate flower raised in a remote mountain valley. The director loved that look. After all, for viewers on the other side of a screen, you're more likely to get their sympathy and attention if you're a pretty kid. People are visual creatures, after all. The rice in the iron pot was a sticky, gooey mess that looked completely unappetizing. I finished cooking and left it in the pot to stay warm. Is this your dinner? This is all the food we have in the house, I said, hesitating for a moment. Mr. Director, Mr. Cameraman, have you eaten yet? The director wasn't expecting me to ask him. He waved his hand. No, don't worry about us. We already ate. Thank you, Hannah. Okay. The camera light came on, filming from outside the house. Do you study here? The director asked in surprise from behind the camera. I secretly rolled my eyes. My family was so poor. Of course we didn't have a kerosene lamp for me to study by. It was still daytime, so I had to rely on the natural light. On camera, however, I looked embarrassed by the question and gave a shy smile. I sat on the outdoor steps, holding a tattered book. We don't have a lamp in the house, so this is the only place I can read. Why don't you eat dinner first? The director asked me. My grandma and my dad aren't back yet. I'm waiting for them to come home so we can eat together. The director, trying to build up my pitiful persona, feigned surprise. You're so young. You shouldn't go hungry. You should eat first. I played along perfectly. But Grandma and Dad are so tired. I have to wait for them to come home so we can eat together. I blinked my eyes, as if tears were about to fall. After a moment of silence, the director asked another question. This was all information they had gathered beforehand, but on camera, they had to make it look like they were discovering it step by step, drawing in the viewer's attention. Hannah, I'm a little curious. Why aren't you in school at your age? I paused, looking down at my book, my voice filled with sorrow. There's no money for me to go to school. Is your dad the only one who works? What about your mom? At the mention of my mother, my eyes turned red as I looked up, tears welling. My mom left. Left? Why? I stammered for a moment, then shook my head. I don't know. My mom left as soon as I was born. On camera, I was silently shedding tears, surrounded by the sympathetic looks of the film crew. After the first episode of Life Swap aired, it caused a huge sensation. As the most watched child on the show, viewers were full of questions about my absent mother. The production team didn't keep them in suspense. Since I hadn't given a direct answer, they went to my grandma and dad. My dad had the look of an honest, simple man, plain and ordinary, not at all like someone who could have a daughter as beautiful as Hannah, but who can predict genetics. In the interview, true to his appearance, my dad stood silently to the side, his face a mask of dejection and shame as my grandma spoke. Sigh, I'm an old woman with one foot in the grave. I didn't want to say anything bad about my son's wife, but my Hannah is so little. The old woman gestured with her hands. Her hair was white, and she was crying pitifully in front of everyone. She just abandoned her child. I know we're poor, not like the dazzling city, and her mother had a wild heart. She couldn't stand being in this little mountain village. But no matter what, you shouldn't abandon your newborn child. My Hannah is so well behaved and obedient, who wouldn't love her? My poor child. The old woman was a mess of snot and tears, and even the interviewer couldn't help but get choked up. She reached out and slapped my dad's arm. It's all my son's fault for not being good enough, and my fault for giving birth to him in such a poor place. Now his child can't even go to school. My dad hung his head, and the big man's eyes turned red too. When the interview was released, a wave of support to find Hannah's mother swept the nation. Netizens discussed the poor little girl. There are so many gold diggers in society these days. They complain about men who can't provide, send all their husbands' money back home, and still talk bad about them. What gives them the right? At police department, isn't this child abandonment? What kind of logic is it to have a child and not raise it? Yeah, at police department, let those gold diggers see that abandoning your husband and child isn't just morally wrong, it's also illegal. The little girl is so pitiful. I can donate money to help her go to school. Give me an address, and I'll send some food and drinks to her family first. She's so tiny, like a little bean sprout, clearly malnourished. I won't say much else, just give me the address. The online uproar never reached the isolated mountain village. Hey, you useless girl, get over here. You think being on TV makes you the queen of the house? You motherless little fool, move it. Can't you move? You think I can't beat you to death right now, is that it? In front of the camera, the honest Hannah's dad and the pitiful old grandma raising her granddaughter had completely transformed. I hid the storm of emotions in my eyes and meekly answered, yes, then helped my grandma, who had thrown out her back, support my drunk father. When he was drunk, my dad was even more irritable than usual. He shoved me, and I fell to the ground before I could react. Hey, you clumsy girl. What if you made my son fall? The old woman was furious and, forgetting her own back pain, rushed to help my dad. I silently lifted my hand and looked at the gravel and wood splinters embedded in my palm, dark red blood slowly seeping out. Hiding my hand behind my back, I watched the scene of motherly love and filial piety before me, my teeth clenched in hatred. What are you standing there for? Go heat some water for your father to wipe himself down. You're just a girl, not at all as sensible and easy to care for as my son. I'll sell you off sooner or later, the old woman said viciously, looking at me as if she wanted to eat me alive. On camera, the old woman pretended to be heartbroken and pitiful for me, but now, she couldn't hide it anymore. She hated me because I had taken the place of her precious grandson. If it weren't for me, my mom wouldn't have run away, and maybe she would have given my dad a son. I went to heat the water, scooping it into a wooden bucket one ladle at a time, adding only a little cold water. Lifting the bucket, I struggled for a few steps, trying my best not to spill it. As I approached the old woman, I accidentally slipped, and the water splashed out. Ouch! You useless girl. The old woman yelped in pain from the hot water. I took a big step back, and more water spilled onto the floor, conveniently soaking the bedding on the cot. The old woman was fuming. You useless girl, did you do that on purpose? She raised her hand to slap me, but stopped mid-air. The film crew was coming back tomorrow, and if there were any marks on my face, they would surely notice. Grandma, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to, I said, my eyes welling with tears, my crying timid and cautious. I think you did it on purpose. You wish I were dead. Just like your mother who ran away. Neither of you are any good. Get out. I can't stand the sight of you. I didn't. I mumbled, my defense weak and pale. My face was as white as paper, and I looked like I was about to collapse as I walked out of the house. Outside, the sky was filled with the evening glow, and endless mountains stretched out before me. I looked out, wiped away my tears as if nothing had happened, and the timidity I had shown them vanished completely, as if it had all been an act. It was an act. The truth was different from what my grandma and my dad had said. My mom did run away, it's undeniable that she abandoned me. But if she hadn't abandoned me, only death would have awaited her. In this small mountain village, honest and simple, were just laughable words. They were all real-life demons. The woods behind the village hid the bones of countless young women who had never made it home. My mother was lucky she escaped. Otherwise, she would have become one of those chilling skeletons. I knew this, so I had to tell the whole world that this was a filthy place, and everyone who participated in these crimes should be brought to justice. In a dilapidated little house in the corner of the village, there was a woman chained up. A drunk man staggered in, and the woman's cries and struggles could be heard from inside, sounding eerie against the barking of dogs in the dead of night. After what felt like an eternity, my legs were numb from squatting outside, and the man finally came out. A while later, I tossed a stone inside. When there was no sound, I snuck in as usual. The woman's clothes were in disarray, her chest half exposed. She looked at me, her unfocused eyes slowly coming into focus. Hannah, you're here, she said, her voice hoarse from struggling, her body covered in bruises. I couldn't bear to look at her. Squatting outside, I had been filled with so much rage that I wanted to take a knife and kill that man. But the physical disparity between us was too great, I couldn't beat him. Yes, I said, stuffing the food and water I had brought from home into her hands. Thank you, she said, then began to wolf down the food. Tears streamed down her face, mixing with the food in her mouth, salty and bitter, as she slowly ate. I watched her in silence. Suddenly, she grabbed my hand. Hannah, can you get me out of here? The woman's eyes flared with a desperate hope. Please, if I don't leave, I'm going to die here. No, I said, shaking my head. She lowered her head, despair washing over her. But I held her hand. Not now. Don't worry, I will get you out. The woman's shoulders suddenly relaxed. She looked at me, crying and laughing at the same time. With tears in her eyes, She stuffed the food into her cheeks until they bulged, the pain in her body seemingly easing a little. After delivering the food, I slipped away. You useless girl, where did you run off to now? The old woman couldn't find me in the pigsty. I said, Grandma, I went to the outhouse. Lazy donkey with a full bladder, humph. Go to sleep, we have to film again tomorrow. The old woman spat on the ground, the saliva landing on the straw that served as my bed. My eyes darkened, but my face remained a mask of fawning smiles. I know, Grandma. Remember to make breakfast in the morning, your father has to go to work. And think carefully about what you should and shouldn't say. You must remember that your mother ran away and abandoned you. Oh, I know. The old woman's large hand slapped the back of my head, and I yelped in pain. What a stupid look. I wonder if you're even mine. Your mother was a tramp who probably got knocked up by some random guy. A money-losing piece of baggage. You don't even look like you belong to our family. I lowered my eyes and didn't argue, sneering inwardly. Thank goodness I didn't look like my drunkard father. The old woman muttered a few more things before going back into the house. I lay on the damp bedding, the smell of pig manure and saliva in the air, making me want to vomit. To boost the show's ratings, the director switched to a live broadcast for the next episode. Hannah, have you received the supplies that viewers sent you? In front of the camera, I was back to being a shy, timid little girl. I had changed into new clothes, and the live comments on the phone were endless, most of them expressing concern and well wishes for me. Yes, thank you to all the uncles, aunts, brothers, and sisters for your concern, I said sincerely. The old woman was much more nervous on camera than I was, her expression unnatural. I continued. Our family has received a lot of things already. I hope the uncles, aunts, brothers, and sisters won't send us any more things in the future. Thank you all so much, thank you. I stood up and bowed. The old woman subconsciously started to stand up and bow with me, but when she heard what I said, her face immediately turned cold. The words, you useless girl, were on the tip of her tongue, but she quickly swallowed them. If these suckers didn't send food and drinks, wouldn't she have to work herself to death? The film crew sensed something was off, but it was a live broadcast, they couldn't cut it. And a show needs yueto and twists to generate buzz. The old woman swallowed her anger. Yes, Hannah is right. Thank you everyone, thank you. Each word seemed to be squeezed out from between her teeth. A viewer noticed something was off. Why does this old woman look like she wants to eat Hannah? It doesn't look like a good grandmother-granddaughter relationship. You see what you want to see. Do you really think you're some kind of detective? Their life is hard, so they look miserable. What's so strange about that? Hannah is so well-behaved and obedient. I don't know how her mother could be so heartless as to abandon her. I added, and to the kind people who are sponsoring my education, please don't send the money to us. You can give it directly to the school. You useless girl, did you eat something wrong this morning? The old woman was stunned, her face ashen, her lips trembling. She couldn't speak for a long time. The comments flooded the screen again. This feels very wrong. Agreed, same as above. Even the dumbest member of the crew would have realized something was wrong. They weren't about to let this hot topic go. The director asked me, Hannah, what do you mean by that? Are you afraid your grandma won't let you go to school? The old woman grew even more nervous. No, Hannah and I had a little argument a few days ago, and she's just being stubborn. Don't take a child's words to heart. In front of everyone, I suddenly began to tremble and took a few steps back, trying to escape the camera's view, hiding behind the cameraman. It was as if I was afraid the old woman would snap and slap me at any moment. My good impression on the film crew over the past few days paid off. They instinctively protected me and spoke up for me. The cameraman even took a step forward to shield me, his tall frame towering over the old woman's short stature. The director asked me, Hannah, tell us. We're all here. No one will dare to give you a hard time. Tears immediately welled up in my eyes, as if I had been wronged beyond measure. Grandma and Dad won't let me go to school. Why? My grandma and my dad looked down on me because I'm a girl. And my mom didn't abandon me. My dad beat her until she ran away. This huge twist left not only the film crew, but also the online viewers stunned into silence for a moment. The phenomenon of favoring boys over girls is actually very common in remote mountain villages. It took me years of hard work to get out of the mountains. I was wondering, the country has 9 years of compulsory education. Tuition shouldn't be that much, so why isn't Hannah in school? See, all those people who were cursing the mother before have now changed their tune. Faced with so many strange looks, the old woman panicked and let her usual curses slip out. You useless girl, what nonsense are you talking about? I was in tears. I'm not talking nonsense, Mr. Director, Mr. Cameraman, I'm really not talking nonsense. I waved my hands frantically, trying to prove my point. Then I said to the cameraman, Sir, can I borrow your phone? The cameraman was still reeling from the big twist. He handed me his phone. I took it, wiped away my tears, and dialed a number. Under everyone's puzzled gaze, I said, Hello, is this the police? You useless girl. The old woman realized what I was about to do and tried to snatch the phone. I sidestepped her, and she stumbled and fell. In her eyes, my expression was almost mocking, but to everyone else, my eyes were filled with tears, and I looked at the old woman with fear, clutching the phone as if I had finally mustered the courage to say, I want to report my grandmother and my father for human trafficking and illegal imprisonment. What? Human trafficking? Illegal imprisonment? The director was dumbfounded. What he thought was a family drama had turned into a live law enforcement scene. And the old woman's reaction was spectacular. Her sore spot had been hit, and she lunged at me recklessly. I said into the phone, and to everyone in front of me, I can prove it. This is all true. Since such a huge issue was involved, the film crew couldn't let me get hurt in front of everyone. For both public and private reasons, they all rushed forward to protect me. The old woman was furious, clutching her back in pain, but she was helpless against me. Besides anger, there was also fear. She calmed down and said to me, Hannah, don't you forget who raised you. And besides, I'm your grandmother. You can't just make things up. Whether I'm making things up or not, you know in your heart. Humph, do you really think your mother who ran off to God knows where will show up? After something so embarrassing, she would dare to show her face? A woman who married my son and then abandoned you. I was silent for a moment, then looked at her with a half smile. Do you really think I'm that stupid? This question stumped her. She was stunned. When did the meek and timid me have the guts to talk to her like that? She felt a mix of anger at her authority being challenged and a deep-seated fear. So I had been pretending all along. Yes, I wasn't that stupid. I had secretly contacted my mother, and I had also gotten rid of the only contact information she had left me. As a mother who had endured hardship to bring a child she didn't want into this world, her feelings for me were complex, a mix of love and hate. That's why she had tucked a small note into my baby blanket. But I wouldn't let my grandma and my dad disrupt her slowly improving life. Without me, her life would have been smooth sailing. To save more people, I called her and told her everything. After a long silence, she finally agreed. The old woman was speechless. I had called the police in front of so many people, and all she could do was panic. Due to the immense online attention, the police handled the situation on the spot, with millions watching the live broadcast. My mother, whom I hadn't seen in years, also arrived, accompanied by her family. Although she still looked a bit frail, she was clean, and her face had filled out. She looked at us with a slight aversion, as if she were seeing some wild beast, and subconsciously touched her arm. I looked down and saw that the mottled scars on her arm had not yet faded, just as the physical and mental trauma had not completely faded from her memory. You abandoned your husband and daughter, and you still have the face to come back? Do you know that I raised this child from when she was tiny, and in the end, she's just an ungrateful brat. You're an ungrateful brat too, I never should have saved you. The old woman had nothing left to lose. She didn't hide her disgust. Of course, in her version of the story, my mother was an ungrateful wretch. The family who came with her had seen the suffering she had been through. They had worked so hard to rescue her from this hell, so they had no kind words for us. I stood in front of her and said, Ma'am, I hope you can tell the truth so that they can receive the punishment they deserve and more innocent people can be saved. I didn't call her Mom. Although the blood ties were unbreakable, in reality, I was a child who should not have appeared in her life. I had the blood of a villain flowing through my veins. I didn't have the right. She stared at me, the child she had resolutely abandoned, the child she had left in hell to walk into the light. Her eyes slowly turned red, and she looked down without speaking, her thin frame hiding a great sorrow. It was clear that both my grandma and my dad would try to silence my mother. My dad had somehow walked up to us, his tone almost pleading. "Since you left, don't come back and cause trouble for us. We've had it hard enough. What more do you want?" He took my hand. "Hannah, I know you miss your mom, but you shouldn't lie like this. Filing a false police report is illegal, you know?" He turned to the police. "I'm sorry to trouble you. The child is young and doesn't know any better. It's just a family dispute. I hope you won't pursue it." His heartfelt plea made him seem like a dejected man abandoned by a heartless wife and misunderstood by his ungrateful child. Everyone was skeptical. In their minds, this was a society ruled by law. How could anyone still dare to traffic people? And if that were the case, why didn't Hannah's mother report it after she escaped? My mother, she took a step back in fear, because the man who had tormented her for her entire life, the man who haunted her nightmares, was approaching her. She was trembling all over, her lips drained of color. A comment on the live feed. "Why does Hannah's mom look so scared? Maybe Hannah is telling the truth. Who knows? Maybe she's afraid the police will charge her with abandonment. This is a huge social issue now. Even with the child here, she can't escape responsibility." Looks like these two were probably in a relationship. The family disapproved, she ran away, and then she ran back. There are a lot of foolish girls like that in my village who get knocked up by some guy and then act all pitiful, as if it's everyone else's fault. I couldn't see the comments, but I could see my mother's fear. I tentatively reached out to her, and when I was sure she wouldn't resist, I took her hand. Her hand was cold, but mine was warm. "Mom, trust me, trust the police. They're all here. No one will dare to hurt you." She was like the woman in chains, her eyes filled with fear, but not entirely the same. Her clothes were clean. She didn't look like she had suffered recently. "I am willing to be Hannah's witness." "You bitch. What are you talking about?" The man who was my father suddenly exploded, shedding his pitiful act and lunging to silence my mother with force. But he forgot that although this was his territory where he had always done as he pleased, the police were here, the film crew was here, and the whole country was watching. The police rushed forward and restrained him and my wailing grandmother. The outburst brought back all the memories for my mother. She stood trembling, large tears rolling down her cheeks. She cried her heart out, crying softly, and in that moment, she pulled me into her arms. Because I was still her child no matter what, that's how she saw me. She used her thin body to shield my small frame, once again preparing to silently face the coming storm. But not this time. "What do you think you're doing? You dare to do this in front of the police?" The police officer who had felt a flicker of sympathy for my father now had a cold expression, restraining him like a criminal. My father winced in pain, his alcohol-addled brain clearing up. He tried to play pitiful again. Officer, I'm sorry. I just lost my temper, I'm sorry." The police let him go but kept him close, wary of his next move, and also kept him away from us. "What nonsense are you talking about? Do you want to see me in prison? My mother is so old. Are you trying to kill her with anger? I admit, your family looked down on me, and I wasn't good to you after we got married, but..." He was cut off by my mother. "We were never married." "What are you talking about?" My father tried to argue. "I was abducted by you. How could we have a marriage certificate?" My mother said calmly, her eyes filled with a consuming rage. "How could?" My father scratched his head awkwardly, then slapped his forehead as if he had just remembered something. "It was normal not to have a marriage certificate back then. You ran away with me. You didn't have your household registration, so of course we didn't get married." He thought his explanation was reasonable and looked smug. "You may not think much of me now, but I was quite handsome back then. She fell for me and insisted on being with me." I snorted with laughter. "You're an old, ugly man, and you still have the nerve to say you were handsome? You little brat. You're still my kid. Or maybe you're not my kid. A tramp like your mother who runs around with anyone, who knows how many men she's been with, and now she has the nerve to air it all out, humph. Pa. I spat on the ground, looking at him with contempt. My dad, no, that bald dog, was furious but helpless. But he was surely thinking that after this was over, he wouldn't let me off easy. Breaking one of my legs would be getting off light. But I wouldn't let him off either, or the other villains in the village. I squeezed my mother's hand encouragingly, hoping she would continue to tell everyone the truth. If I ran away with you, why would my family search for me so frantically? Maybe your whole family has no shame. You bald dog still trying to bite people. If you liked me, you liked me. There's nothing to be ashamed of. Now we have a child, we've done everything, and you're still being stubborn. He was trying to downplay the situation, to shift the focus. Officer, if you don't believe me, you can check with the police station. A missing persons report would have been filed. I looked steadily at the bald dog and the old woman, a slight smile on my face. In their eyes, I was the real demon at that moment. I continued, many people in this village are accomplices. We can investigate, we can search, there are still people hidden here. If you dig with a shovel in the woods behind the village, you'll find layers and layers of bones. Those bones belong to the wives who were bought by these people to have children. They tried to escape, but few succeeded. They were either tied up and had their legs broken, or they were beaten to death. My mother was one of the lucky ones. I'm glad she escaped. I've never blamed her for leaving me behind, because if she hadn't run, she would have ended up as one of those skeletons. I spoke each word slowly, as if I wanted everyone to take them to heart and never forget. And I succeeded. Everyone present and not present was shocked by the enormous amount of information in my words. How could this be? The police quickly verified the truth. Fortunately, they had brought many officers and surrounded the entire village. The people in the village, men, women, old and young, all seemed harmless, but this ordinary-looking place hid so much evil. The police dug up the bones buried in the earth. They had become fragments battered by wind and rain, with no recognizable features for family and friends. But the small objects left behind made the viewers in the live broadcast fall silent again. It was a long time before someone sent a comment. Could this be my great-uncle's cousin who has been missing for so many years? I know someone whose child went missing. The old man is so pitiful. He lost his wife a few years ago and has been traveling all over the country alone, saying he wants to find his daughter before he dies. Damn you human traffickers. How can you eat and sleep after selling so many children? How many people lie awake at night, terrified that their child will never come home? The woman in chains was also released by the police. She was a mess, not a single part of her body uninjured. But her eyes were shining because she was finally saved. She looked at me, her lips moving, and said with a heavy heart, "Thank you, Hannah." The man who had been arrested by the police was kicked to the ground with the full force of her anger. No one stopped him. That man deserved it. Besides him, there were many other innocent girls. One girl was unfortunate enough to have a child, so she had a relatively good life with her buyer for a few days. When she was rescued, her numb eyes finally flickered, and she covered her mouth to stifle her sobs. When I asked her what she would do about the child, she smiled, not a forced smile, but a smile full of life. "I'll abort it. It has no reason to come into this world. It wasn't born out of the love and anticipation of its parents. It would only serve as a constant reminder of the suffering its mother endured." The villains who participated in human trafficking and illegal imprisonment were all arrested. They were handcuffed and made to kneel before the innocent girls they had harmed. Some had remorse on their faces, some had shame, and some were indifferent. Whether they were truly repentant or not, the law would teach them about beauty and goodness. Perhaps they would spend the rest of their lives in prison, atoning for the people they had killed and harmed. "Hannah, thank you," most people said to me, and my mother said the same. "You don't have to thank me. I should be the one thanking you. Thank you for bringing me into this world. Thank you for giving me life, thank you." I paused, looking at my mother. This familiar yet strange face, the face I had imagined countless times in my dreams, gentle and kind. She was my mother. "Can I call you Mom?" She was stunned, then broke into the most beautiful smile. Of course you can. Hannah, my child. She hugged me as if she were hugging her whole world. For years she had tried to let go, to forget, but in fact she could not forget the pain. It was not until she saw the villains get their due punishment, and the innocent girls rescued that she finally breathed a sigh of relief. She had escaped before, but it was not a complete escape. Girls like her were still suffering. Now it was finally over. I hugged her back naturally. Justice will always prevail, Mom. You have to believe that. In the end, the entire village of Stone Ridge was arrested. Depending on the severity of their crimes, they were sentenced to prison or executed. This major case, involving so many people, received widespread public attention. In response, the relevant departments strengthened management, and numerous measures to combat human trafficking were implemented across the country, effectively curbing the rampant activities of traffickers. I went back to elementary school, received my 9 years of compulsory education, and became an ordinary person in the sea of humanity. I did not accept my mother's offer to raise me and instead went into foster care. Hannah, that pretty lady is here to bring you something again. Do you know her? I took the package from my friend and smiled. I know her.